guide through the veiled corridors of history, where the forgotten whisper their secrets to those brave enough to listen. In this dim, lit realm, we unearth the bloodlines that time has tried to bury, the institutions cursed by their own sins, and the families that vanish into the ether, only to return as specters in our nightmares. Tonight, as the autumn winds rattle the branches outside your window, we venture into the heart of the American wilderness, the Ozarks, a land of jagged hills shrouded in perpetual mist, where the trees seem to lean in closer with every step, and the ground itself holds grudges from centuries past. Imagine, if you will, the year 1871. The Civil War's echoes still reverberate through the valleys, a fresh scar on the nation's soul. Reconstruction promises healing, but in the isolated pockets of Missouri and Arkansas, old hatreds fester like untreated wounds. Communities huddle in log cabins, lit by flickering kerosene lamps, while the nights are alive with the calls of unseen creatures. It's here, in this labyrinth of hollows and ridges, that we uncover a tale so dark, so utterly erased from the annals of history, that even the locals speak of it only in hushed tones around dying campfires. This is the story of the Kincaid brothers' forgotten massacre, the Ozarks' darkest secret. Picture the scene, a moonless night in late October, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. The Kincaid brothers, Elias, the eldest, with his steely gaze and scarred hands from guerrilla raids, Harlan, the cunning middle child, whose smile hid a venomous heart, and Jedidiah, the youngest, wild-eyed and impulsive, driven by a rage that burned hotter than any forge. They were sons of the soil, born to a family that had scratched a living from the unforgiving Ozark terrain for generations. But beneath their rugged exteriors lay a shadow, a curse whispered about in the saloons of Springfield and the churches of Branson, a curse tied to the land itself, perhaps inherited from the Cherokee who were driven from these hills decades earlier on the Trail of Tears, their spirits lingering like fog in the mornings. The massacre didn't begin with blood, it started with whispers. Rumors of a rival clan, the Holloways encroaching on Kincaid land, a fertile valley hidden deep in the Boston Mountains. The Holloways were newcomers, Union sympathizers who had fled the war's devastation in the north, seeking solace in the Ozarks' embrace. But to the Kincaids, they were intruders, thieves of what was rightfully theirs by blood and sweat. As tension simmered, strange occurrences plagued the region, livestock found gutted under full moons, wells poisoned with an acrid slime, and shadows that moved against the wind. Folks blamed it on the Ozark howler, that legendary beast with horns and a cry like a woman's scream, but the Kincaids knew better. It was a sign, they said, a harbinger of the violence to come. I can almost feel the chill now, as I recount this to you. The way the mist rolls down from the peaks, wrapping around your ankles like spectral hands, pulling you deeper into the unknown. Have you ever walked alone in such a place, where every snap of a twig could be a footstep following you, every rustle in the underbrush a breath on your neck? That's the Ozarks, a place where nature conspires with the supernatural, where history doesn't die but hides, waiting to pounce. But let us not rush ahead. The hook, my friends, lies in the erasure. Why was this massacre forgotten? In an era rife with vigilante justice and post-war vendettas, why did the Kincaid brothers' atrocity vanish from records, newspapers, and even family lore? Some say it was a pact with darker forces, a ritual that bound the souls of the victims to silence. Others whisper of a cover-up by powerful figures in Reconstruction-era politics, eager to paint the South as healed. Yet, as we peel back the layers, you'll sense the truth. The land itself swallowed the story, digesting it into its roots, only to regurgitate it in nightmares and unexplained disappearances. As your host, I invite you to dim the lights, draw the curtains, and let the shadows in, for in the telling of this tale, we risk awakening something ancient, something that watches from the corners of your room, patient and hungry. The Kincaid brothers' massacre isn't just history, it's a warning, a reminder that some secrets are buried for a reason, and unearthing them invites the shadow behind you to step forward. Now, Settle in as we begin our descent into the narrative. Feel the weight of the air grow heavier, the room cooler. The story unfolds slowly, like fog creeping over a graveyard at dawn. Let us step back into the mists of 1871, where the Ozarks were a world unto themselves. Isolated from the bustling cities of the East, this rugged expanse of limestone karsts, deep caves, and tangled forests harbored communities that lived by their own laws. The Kincaid family had claimed a swath of land near what is now the Mark Twain National Forest, a valley known as Whispering Hollow, named for the way the winds funneled through the cliffs, carrying voices that weren't there. Elias Kincaid was the patriarch in all but name, his father having perished in a skirmish during the war. At 32, Elias was a towering figure, his beard streaked with premature grey, eyes like chips of flint that missed nothing. He had ridden with Quantrill's raiders, those notorious bushwhackers who terrorized Union forces, and the war had hardened him into something unyielding. Harlan, 28, was the schemer, always with a plan brewing behind his affable demeanor. He handled the family's moonshine operations, distilling corn liquor in hidden stills that dotted the hills. Jedidiah, barely 24, was the firebrand, quick to anger, quicker with a knife, his body marked by tattoos of serpents and crosses, symbols he claimed warded off evil spirits. Their home was a sturdy log cabin, smoke curling from its stone chimney like a serpent's tongue. Inside, the walls were lined with rifles and traps, the air heavy with the scent of cured meat and wood smoke. But peace was elusive. The war had left scars. Neighbors turned informants, families divided by allegiance. The Kincaids, staunch Confederates, viewed the incoming Northerners with suspicion. Enter the Holloways. Led by Patriarch Thomas Holloway, a former Union soldier from Illinois, the family of 8 arrived in spring 1871, wagons laden with hopes of a new life. Thomas, his wife Eliza, their 4 children, young Sarah's 12, twins Micah and Leah's 9, and baby Josiah, plus Thomas's brother Samuel and his wife Mary. They purchased land adjacent to the Kincaids, unaware of the simmering resentment. The Holloways were industrious, clearing fields and building a barn, their laughter echoing across the hollow, a sound that grated on the Kincaids like nails on slate. Tension built gradually, like storm clouds gathering over the peaks. It started with small disputes, a fence line misplaced by a few feet, cattle straying into Kincaid pastures. Elias confronted Thomas one crisp morning, the 2 men standing toe to toe under a canopy of oaks, leaves crunching underfoot. "This land's been ours since before your kind soiled the north," Elias growled, his voice low and menacing. Thomas, a man of faith with a Bible always at hand, replied calmly, "The war's over, friend. Let's build, not burn." But words turned to actions. Harlan spread rumors in the nearby town of Willow Springs, whispers that the Holloways were carpetbaggers, spying for federal agents. Jedidiah took it further, sabotaging their well with rotten carcasses, the water turning foul overnight. The Holloways endured, attributing it to bad luck or wildlife. Yet, as summer waned, stranger things occurred. Sarah Holloway reported seeing figures in the woods at night, tall shadows with glowing eyes, accompanied by a low growl that chilled her bones. Eliza found symbols carved into their door, twisted runes resembling those in old Cherokee tales, evoking curses of famine and death. The Kincaids, too, felt the unease. Elias dreamed of a woman in white, her face decayed, pointing accusatory fingers from the tree line. Harlan dismissed it as guilt from wartime atrocities, but Jedidiah embraced it, claiming the spirits demanded blood to appease the land. "The Ozarks remember," he'd mutter, sharpening his blade by firelight. "They hunger for what's owed." By autumn, the powder keg ignited. A Holloway cow was found mutilated, its entrails arranged in a circle, a sign the Kincaids claimed of witchcraft. Thomas accused them openly at a town meeting, his voice booming in the wooden hall lit by lanterns casting long shadows. "You've poisoned our peace!" he thundered. Elias rose slowly, his presence silencing the room. "Beware the shadows you cast, Holloway. They might follow you home." That night, under a harvest moon that bathed the hills in blood, red light, the brothers convened. The cabin's interior flickered with candlelight, the air thick with tobacco smoke and conspiracy. "It's them or us," Harlan said, his eyes gleaming. Jedidiah nodded, fingering his knife. Elias, after a long pause, agreed. "We'll make it look like bandits. No traces." They struck at midnight. The Holloway's cabin stood silent, smoke from their hearth mingling with the fog. The brothers approached on foot, boots silent on the leaf-strewn path. The scent of pine and earth filled the air, masking their approach. Jedidiah kicked in the door, the wood splintering with a crack like thunder. Chaos erupted. Thomas grabbed his rifle, but Harlan shot him point blank. The blast echoing through the hollow. Eliza screamed, clutching baby Josiah, as Jedidiah dragged her outside. The children huddled in the corner, their cries piercing the night. Samuel and Mary fought valiantly, but Elias's axe felled them in brutal swings, blood splattering the walls like abstract art in crimson. Sarah tried to flee into the woods, her nightgown tearing on branches, but Jedidiah pursued, his laughter manic amid the rustling leaves. The massacre was methodical, the brothers ensuring no survivors. They torched the cabin, flames roaring skyward, illuminating the horror. As the fire crackled, consuming wood and flesh, a strange wind arose howling through the trees, carrying whispers that sounded like names. Kincaid, betrayers. In the aftermath, the brothers returned home, bloodied but triumphant. Yet, as dawn broke, painting the sky in hues of bruised purple, an unnatural quiet fell over Whispering Hollow. Birds ceased singing. Even the stream seemed to murmur accusations. The days following the massacre were shrouded in an oppressive silence, as if the Ozarks themselves mourned the Holloways. The Kincaids buried the evidence deep in a cave system known as Devil's Den, a labyrinth of dripping stalactites and echoing chambers where light dared not venture. The bodies, wrapped in oilcloth, were lowered into an abyss, the scent of decay mingling with the mineral tang of the underground. Elias led the ritual, muttering words from an old family grimoire, a tattered book passed down from their Scottish ancestors, filled with incantations against restless spirits. But peace eluded them. Harlan began hearing voices in the stills, bubbles in the mash whispering, murderers, as the liquor fermented. Jedidiah saw apparition Sarah's ghost in the woods, her eyes hollow sockets, beckoning him deeper. Elias, the stoic one, suffered nightmares where the Holloways rose from the earth, soil-clogged fingers clutching at his throat. Word spread slowly. Neighbors noticed the Holloway's absence, their charred cabin a blackened skeleton against the hillside. The Kincaids spun tales of bandits outlaws from the Indian Territory preying on settlers. The local sheriff, a war buddy of Elias, nodded knowingly and filed no report. Reconstruction officials, stretched thin, dismissed it as another frontier tragedy. Thus, the massacre faded into rumor, a ghost story for winter nights. Yet the haunting intensified. One foggy evening, as the brothers sat by their fire, a knock echoed at the door, rhythmic, insistent. Jedidiah opened it to nothing but swirling mist. That night, their livestock screamed in agony, found the next morning with throats slit in perfect circles. Blood trails led to the woods, vanishing at the tree line. "It's the howler," Jedidiah insisted, his voice trembling. But Harlan knew better. It was retribution. Conflicts deepened among the brothers. Elias blamed Jedidiah's impulsiveness. Jedidiah accused Harlan of cowardice. Fights erupted, fists flying in the cabin's dim light, the air thick with sweat and fury. One stormy night, lightning illuminating the room in flashes, Harlan confessed. Why he disturbed something old. The land's cursed Cherokee spirits may be angered by more blood. Indeed, legends spoke of the Osage and Cherokee who once roamed these hills, their burial grounds desecrated by settlers. The Kincaid's Valley was built atop one such site, bones unearthed during plowing. The massacre perhaps awakened them. Mysterious elements compounded the terror. Elias found a doll in his bed, Sarah's, sinned but intact, its button eyes staring accusingly. Jedidiah vanished for days, returning gaunt and raving about the white woman, leading him through caves, her laughter echoing like shattering glass. Harlan turned to the bottle, his moonshine laced with herbs to ward off visions, but it only heightened them, shadows in mirrors, reflecting not his face but Thomas Holloway's, mouth agape in a silent scream. The climax came in December, snow blanketing the Ozarks in a deceptive purity. The brothers, paranoid, barricaded themselves. Whispers encircled the cabin, children's voices chanting nursery rhymes twisted into curses. Jedidiah snapped, charging into the blizzard with his rifle, shots ringing out. He never returned, his body found frozen, clawed as if by a beast, eyes wide in eternal horror. Harlan and Elias endured, but isolation bred madness. Harlan hanged himself in the barn, rope creaking like a gallows wind. Elias alone scribbled confessions in the grimoire before disappearing. The cabin stood empty, vines claiming it as if the earth reclaimed its own. Years passed, the story morphing into folklore. Travelers reported lights in Whispering Hollow, cries on windless nights. A family settling there in 1880 vanished, their home untouched save for bloodstains. The massacre, forgotten officially, lived in shadows. To fully grasp the chilling essence of the Kincaid brothers' massacre, we must delve into the historical and cultural tapestry of the Ozarks. In 1871, a region steeped in violence, folklore, and the lingering ghosts of America's fractured past. The Ozarks, spanning parts of Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Kansas, were a frontier crucible where European settlers clashed with indigenous peoples, and later, with each other during the Civil War and Reconstruction. Post-Civil War, the Ozarks were a hotbed of unrest. The war had ravaged the area. Guerrilla warfare, epitomized by groups like Quantrill's Raiders, left communities divided. Missouri, a border state, saw brutal bushwhacking ambushes, raids, and massacres that blurred lines between soldier and civilian. By 1871, Reconstruction aimed to rebuild, but federal policies inflamed tensions. Former Confederates like the Kincaids resented Union carpetbaggers, viewing them as invaders. Violence persisted, lynchings, feuds, and vigilante groups like the Bald Nobers, emerging in the 1880s, but rooted in earlier chaos, enforced justice in lawless hills. Real events mirror our tale. The Chillicothe County Massacre of 1871 in Arkansas saw racial violence against freedmen, echoing post-war racial and political strife. In the Ozarks, the Springfield lynchings of 1906 stemmed from similar tensions, but earlier, Reconstruction saw Klan activity terrorizing Republicans and African Americans. The Encyclopedia of Arkansas notes Ku Klux Klan peaks in 1868, using violence to suppress votes. Our story's cover up reflects this. Many atrocities went unreported, buried by sympathetic locals or overwhelmed authorities. Culturally, the Ozarks bred isolation. Scotch-Irish settlers brought superstitions, witches' omens, and curses. Folklore abounds. The Ozark Howler, a cryptid with shaggy fur and demonic eyes, blamed for mutilations. Legends of lost families, like the Black Hollow Mystery, late 1800s, where a clan vanished, leaving empty homes, parallel the Holloway's fate. Native influences linger. Cherokee and Osage tales of spirits guarding sacred lands. The Trail of Tears, 1830s, displaced thousands. Curses on desecrators are common in lore. Blend fact and folklore post-war. Moonshining thrived, fueling feuds. The Kincaids stills evoke this economy. Educational yet eerie. Imagine caves used for hiding bodies. Real like mammoth cave systems harboring secrets. Vanishing families tied to migration and disease, but folklore adds supernatural vanishings. This context lends authenticity, making the massacre feel like unearthed truth, a blend where history's shadows birth legends. Beneath the blood and shadows of the Kincaid brothers' tale lies a labyrinth of symbolic and psychological depths, connecting to universal fears, cultural traumas, and the abyss of human nature. Ominously, this story symbolizes the cycle of violence, a Ouroboros where past sins devour the present. Psychologically, the brothers embody war's trauma. Elias, the repressed leader; Harlan, the rationalizer; Jedidiah, the id unleashed. Their descent mirrors PTSD, hallucinations as manifestations of guilt. Freudian undertones, the grimoire as superego, failing to contain primal urges. Thematically, isolation breeds monstrosity. The Ozarks' geography, impenetrable forests, hidden hollows, reflects inner isolation, where societal norms erode, unleashing savagery, universal fear, or the Holloways as intruders, tapping xenophobia. cultural trauma, post-Civil War wounds, forgotten massacres as repressed memory, connects to America's amnesia on indigenous displacement, slavery's legacy, human nature's dark side, greed, revenge, disguised as justice. Ominous tone, this warns of shadows within, haunting us if ignored. As our journey through the shadows concludes, the Kincaid brothers' massacre lingers like mist at dawn, elusive, chilling. We've uncovered bloodied hands, whispered curses, a land that remembers. Yet, questions remain, was it mere madness, or did ancient forces conspire? In the Ozarks today, hikers report echoes, vanishings, the shadow behind you, perhaps. Dear listeners, heed this. Some secrets should stay buried. As you turn off the light, listen. Is that a whisper? Until next time, beware the shadow behind you.